What's up everyone, Zach Edward here, new video today, and the topic is buildups. I get asked this a lot. What goes into a buildup? How can I make my buildups better? And I wanna show you guys how to push beyond using samples, how to create just a few certain types of layers that go into a lot of different build sections. And once you know how to make them, you can customize them to fit your mix exactly how you would need it. And that's what's most important. So let's go to the DAW and let's check it out. All right, so what we're gonna be doing is focusing on buildups. Now this will apply to any DAW, any genre, any BPM. Think of it like driving a car. A lot of things with making music and production, it's very similar to driving a car. You don't need to learn how to drive a specific make and model of car. Right? If you know how to drive, you could pretty much sit in any car and get from point A to point B. This is very similar. I'm gonna show you guys certain sounds and how to build certain sounds, and you'll realize how you can cater that specifically maybe to the genre you're working in, to the BPM you're working in, even to the key you're working in. It's more about understanding the core concept and then applying it in a more specific, micro version. So here's just the foundation loop, and then I'm gonna bring all the rising elements in, and those are things I created and added, and we're gonna look at how I made those. So a lot of tension, right? Now if I take those out, big difference, right? So let's take a look at what some of these layers are and how we can make them. So the first one I want to start off, this is a must-have. This goes into every one of the tracks I make. And again, trying to find an audio sample that fits this in the right key, doing what I want, it's tough. It's very easy to make. So what this is a simple sub riser. So if I actually play it and show you the spectrum as it plays, you could see that it starts from a really low note and works its way up. So everything in this instance is the key of B minor for the track I was making. But what's great about this is using MIDI, you can make this fit any key you're working in. So how did we make it? Same thing, this will apply to any synth. The basic concept behind this is two oscillators, both playing sine waves. One oscillator is an octave lower than the next oscillator. It's as simple as that. I have a filter activated on this as well, just so none of the high stuff, passes beyond that filter as it starts to increase in pitch. And all I really did was I set a macro to control this pitch bend. So now, for example, if you see what I did with my automation, I just automated this pitch to go up by 2 octaves over the duration of these 8 bars. So both oscillators are producing a sine wave. I have separate volume control over them, which is nice from a mixing perspective. And what they're doing is just increasing their pitch over the 8 bars. But what this does is, as all your effects are rising and you're starting to filter out low end, you tend to lose the bottom of a buildup. This is gonna keep that in there. You can see if I even take it out, the underneath section of the track is almost missing. So this is a really easy layer to add. And again, I like to have 2 octaves. So as it sweeps up, you kind of have that bottom octave taking over. You have separate volume control so you can get each octave as loud as you want. And all I'm doing is automating the pitch up over those over the 8 bars. The next layer is a simple tonal layer. So typically I'll have a low end sub that rises and I'll have some sort of tonal layer. Now this one is fun if I show you what I did, and we'll recreate it from scratch. So what's great about this is it fits my mix perfect, and I can make it fit my mix exactly how I need. Again, using audio samples, it's not always that easy. So let's create just a new MIDI instrument. I'm gonna copy the MIDI down. So once again, all I'm doing is playing the root note of this track. And let's open up Serum. So in order to create this sound, there's a few things going on. If we actually just hop back to the original one first, I'll show you, and then I'll show you how to actually make it. So there's a few things going on. We have the pitch being automated. There's also the LFO rate, which is controlling the volume, which is making it go in and out. Bum, 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 bum. So I'll show you how to do that. At the same time, we're also detuning the voices from one another on the oscillator. So imagine 16 voices, even human voices, for example, are singing the exact perfect pitch. As I begin to detune it more, each of those individual voices from one another are gonna start to vary in pitch. It's gonna start to go a little out of tune. It'll add a bit of a chorus effect at the same time. So I'm automating that, and I'm also automating a reverb. So let's do this. From the synth screen, all I'm gonna do is let's crank up as many voices as possible. This is gonna be the parameter we're also gonna be controlling for detune. I'm gonna create another layer an octave higher. And let's see what we have so far. All right, so let's start to macro some of these parameters out. So the first thing I want to do is let's get the pitch. Let's set this to 24. I'm also going to hit configure. All right, so now I have that. Let's also get the detune. Okay. We're gonna have a reverb that's going to be automated as well. So let's just get this guy. And the LFO, let's set up real quick. I'm just gonna create, we're gonna turn off BPM. We want this to be free. I'm just gonna create a shape that looks something like this. And let's kind of curve it so it almost resembles a sine wave. All right. And let's macro the rate on this guy. Okay, cool. So now we have all of these things that we can macro out. So we'll set the pitch, we'll set the detune, we have reverb, and we have the LFO wobble. So let's get the LFO wobble first, routing to where we need it to route. So in order to get this sound to go wah, 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 if we wanted to do that, of course, just an option you have, I'm gonna set LFO to the destination of my global amp. Now, as I crank this up, watch what happens. So you could hear it pumping, and then as I adjust this rate, so this little knob here is going to control how fast that volume goes in and out. All right, pitch bend, we want to automate this up. So let's start programming some of the automation. So we're going to have this go up the full 2 octaves. Good little tip, don't have the pitch end at the perfect bar amount. Have it like a beat before, it'll sound better. All right, so I have the pitch going up. Let's roughly do this. We could tweak the rate as we go. All right, let's get the amount of detune on our oscillators right. Cool, and then we also have the reverb. Let's also automate that detune so it kind of even gets a little more. We'll start a bit lower and have this go up. So you could see just by kind of customizing some of these things here, it's starting to have a very similar effect. We could also, even if we want, let's put a filter on this. We'll send both. I think this will give it even better sound. And let's also route the LFO to control the filter. So you guys get the point. You can also shape this LFO to do whatever you want, but understanding how to get that sound is important because you can do this now to create the desired effect that you're looking for. So that's just an option you have. Of course, you don't always need to make it wobble either, just something cool to add. All right, the next one I want to show you is another very, very simple one to make, and this is your classic white noise sweep. So all this is in any synth, load up a noise oscillator. For Serum, I like the bright white. Now the trick here is try and use a bandpass filter and add a little bit of resonance. What this is gonna do is take a select band of frequencies and slowly move from lower to high, and then you could always have it go back down, but this is going to give that classic white noise sweep sound. It's more than just a low pass. If you do a low pass filter, it still keeps all the bottom end. You don't want that. You want this select band of frequencies to move up and down, which you could achieve from the band pass filter. So all I did in this instance was I routed the filter cutoff to the macro control so I can automate it from here. Simple enough. Actually, you know what? I think that might have been the reverb. I think I just automated the cutoff. Yes, I did. So I just automated the cutoff. This, I automated the reverb, same thing, to go up over the time so you could hear it kind of smooths out at the end. Some other things you could do, I have an auto pan here, which is also being automated at the same time. Just the amount at which it goes into the mix. Actually, yes, so that was what was really automated here. So excuse me, it's not the reverb being automated, it's the auto pan. The reverb was consistent. But you guys get the point, sound is simple enough. We'll add your white noise sweeps, and just how I went up with this, you could also do the opposite, for example, and go down by just starting with your cutoff high and bringing the filter cutoff down. So that's another very easy sound. Now I want to show you one more cool way in which you can add textures to your buildups. So this right here was actually just a vocal shot. I want to show you how I made this. So I actually went into my vocals, I think it was this one, ambush shot. Yeah, so let's make this again. So I was in the key of B from the get-go. So let's also turn this to warp. We'll go to complex, pro, we'll go up. What were we? This is on, is this G, I believe? Yes, so let's go 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones up, so we're at B. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this and stretch this out as far as I can. So now it sounds like this. All right, not bad. Let's freeze this and flatten it. And let's do the same thing again now. So I'm gonna take this warp, put it on Complex Pro, and let's stretch it again. And now you can see it's really stretched out here. Cool. So let's just chop it down to the length we need. And now inside here, I'm gonna go to my envelope section. I'm gonna go to clip, transpose, and now over the duration, I'm gonna take this tonal vocal shot, and I'm gonna pitch this up either 12 or 24, just like we did with the others. So you can hear that all these little things really do add up to fill out a buildup, and the great thing about it is you can customize this to fit what you need perfectly. Hunting for samples, sometimes they don't really fit the mix. I think that's something that stands out to me a lot when people use samples is they kind of just take something that's a cool sample and drop it in their mix, but it doesn't necessarily fit what's going on around it. Understanding how to make some of these sounds allows you to customize perfect to your mix. Now, last little thing is on your master, you could always do some cool automation as well. So in this instance, I have a high pass filter taking out some of the low end for the last 4 bars here. I also take a little bit of the high end out. And what I do is I automate it back up to its, off position, you could say, when the drop hits. That way some of the low end gets taken out and some of the high end. So when the drop hits, all of a sudden there's a ton of low end and there's extra high end in my drop. Makes the listener think that the drop is bigger than it is. The other thing you could do is shrink the image during the buildup. So actually bring the width of the track down. And then open up on the drop, just like that. One more thing, if you wanted to as well, let's bring a utility in here. I could also even automate the gain down during this build so that when the drop hits, for example, let's pretend the drop was gonna hit at this bar over here, bar 10, maybe during the buildup, it lowers in volume slightly, and then right when the drop hits, the volume slams back up at 0. That way our drop is louder than the build section that came before it. So these are just things you could do to spice your your builds up. And I think that understanding how to make some of this stuff, combining it with the samples you use is gonna go a long way in making your effects fit your track and getting the amount of tension right in a build up, things like that. The more you know, the better off you'll be. So give these a shot, try and make some of these, practice them, save them as instruments. So if you make them once, you don't have to make them again as a rack or a channel strip in Logic, and give them a shot. I think they'll be a big help in your production. So I'll catch you in another video. Be sure to like, subscribe, let me know in the comments what you thought about this, and I'll see you guys later in the week.